Suit up, strap in, warm the tires, and leave on yellow. Time for the MitsuTimes podcast, presented by MitsuTimes.org, the home of the fastest Mitsubishi cars. With your host, Josh.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Josh from MitsuTimes. Today, my guest is Mr. Albert Rosinski. He is the owner and driver of the quickest and fastest car from the 30th annual Shootout, his 6-second Talon. How are you doing today, Albert?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's such an honor to get to talk to you. I got to talk to you in person at PRI. I think it was 2 years ago or maybe last year. I can't remember for sure. All my years running together.
Like that. Yeah.
And, you were kind of talking me through the car, and I just thought, man, what a masterpiece. I can't believe he's going to take it racing. It looks fast standing still. I mean, you've done an absolutely incredible job with it. I mean, anyone who knows your parts knows how good your craftsmanship is. So to see the whole car the way that you did it, fantastic job, sir.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Obviously, for those people who know anything about the build, obviously I spent like an obscene amount of time building it, probably too long. But it is what it is. It's done now, and it's a race car, I guess. And we're gonna go tear some shit up. So
hell yeah. Well, why don't you tell us about the setup on it?
Okay, so the setup, obviously the car is rear-wheel drive. It is a full tube chassis car with a steel body on it. So the chassis is a 25-1 chassis, which is serted to 6.0. So, we got a lot of room left in it. Basically what I did is I built like a Pro Stock chassis, and I just hung the body on top of it. So as far as the setup goes, like I said, rear drive, Ford 9-inch rear end, custom fabricated housing, Liberty air shifted 5-speed with a Ace / Eric Lazinski clutch in there. It's a 2-stage lockup clutch, and 4G built by me in my garage, basically. Turbo is 88 millimeter precision, and it's all controlled by FuelTech FT600 and running M1. So no nitrous. It's the risk of sounding like, I guess, cocky. I mean, it's a pretty simple setup. There's a lot going on, but there isn't much going on. So
yeah. No, you didn't overcomplicate your chassis. Like when I first saw the jet racing car, I thought, man, it's no wonder that these guys have such a hard time keeping this car together. There's so much going on. And
the compound system adds a lot of complexity.
Yeah.
It works, obviously. I mean, they're obviously the quickest and fastest, I believe.
Right.
I don't know that you need that to go fast. I mean, if you look at the fastest 4 cylinders in the world, there's some that have dipped into the 5s now. There's, I think, like 3. They're all Hondas and Ecotech.
Right.
And those are all single cars, but there is some stuff coming out. I know Shane Tecklenburg is working on a car that has like a triple compound setup on it, and I think that thing's going to be like a force to be reckoned with. So, those guys they're probably going to make over 2,000 horsepower. So.
Jeez.
And I believe that's like a SR-based platform. And then, you do see some guys moving over to the compound setup, like Joel Granis just did that.
Yeah.
He seems to be having really good success with it, too. So, I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, you don't know unless you try, right? So, like, maybe start with a single and then push it to the limit and see where that limit is. And, once you run out of steam or you kind of hit a wall with your performance, then, maybe try some different shit. So,
and it's crazy how fast turbocharger technology advances.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, to people that are, like, building cars now, I have a few friends that are building, similar-ish cars. And it's always just like, just wait until the very last possible minute to buy shit like that. Buy like a dead turbo or a mock-up turbo or something if you can, just because the stuff changes so fast,
right.
I'd say like electronics, fuel injectors, and turbo technology, it's all evolving so fast. So I mean, I think about when I started this build 15 years ago to today. I mean, 15 years ago, a GT42 was like a big badass turbo, and now it's like a fucking dinosaur.
Yeah,
so.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what's holding some people back, jet racing included, is that they're backed by a company who's providing them turbochargers that aren't exactly the cutting edge of what we have now. And I think that's why your Precision 88 is really packing the punch. And like you said, you still got some more to get out of it.
I think that the aero design on the turbos makes the biggest difference, honestly, because I think with like I don't even want to name names about turbo manufacturers or whatever, but if you have a turbo manufacturer and their focus isn't just aftermarket performance and it's OEM stuff and
right.
Off-road stuff, and maybe they don't have like the R&D time to devote to doing strictly performance stuff, because like even within the realm of performance stuff, you've kind of got like two categories. You've got like 90% of that is going to be like street car stuff or smaller turbo frames that are meant for quicker spool, and then there's going to be like 5% or less that's going to be like absolute balls out race application only. So to put in the money to develop stuff like that, like it doesn't always make sense as a company, so I get it. But I guess you got to go with what works too. So if it's a Garrett, it's a Garrett. If it's a Borg, it's a Borg. Whatever. If it's a Precision, it's a Precision. So it's just like anything else in race cars. You have to kind of go into this expecting that you're going to end up changing some shit from what you learn at the track. So
it's the expression "jack of all trades, but the master of none" kind of applies here.
Right, for sure.
So, Albert, what motivated you to build this car to such an extent?
Part of it, I think, is just like my personality. If I'm doing something, I tend to take it to like the nth degree usually, and I go pretty extreme with stuff, I guess, that I get into. But the car started off as front-wheel drive. I got it in like 2000 when I was a senior in high school. And it was like my daily driver, and I kind of went through the whole motions of a front-wheel drive car and building it up. And I think the car was running like low tens as a front-wheel drive car, or mid tens or something like that. Wow. And this was back in like 2006 or something. And I got kind of sick of fighting traction and converted the car to all-wheel drive in like a one-car garage. This is like 2007. And went out there and went like a really high 9-second pass or something, and I got kind of sick of braking stuff. You break an axle, you break a transfer case, you break a rear end, or you break third, fourth gear, and I was like, man, fuck this sucks. Like, because I was never breaking engine stuff. The car made good power, so around that time I had started my business, Machined Concepts. We do like CNC machining, contract manufacturing. And I just kind of backburnered the car, and I was like, I'm going to do this right, because I love doing this, but like, if I want to do this right, I want to put the motor through its paces. I want to see what the 4G is truly capable of. And I knew that meant building something kind of more purpose-built race car. And that was what I did. I promised myself that I would, I would take as much time as I needed to build it the right way. I didn't want to cut corners or sacrifice quality just to like get it done in like a season or two. So, if that meant taking 5 years or 10 years or whatever, it was like, I just, made sure I stayed committed to that. So, now for like many years, it was very backburnered. I wasn't focusing on it a lot. I was, kind of getting my business going and, in my early 20s, basically getting my life on my feet. But I never completely walked away from it. So, was just always chipping away at it. Basically, it wasn't till maybe like, I don't know, 4 years ago that I really started to dive into it and like pour the steam on,
Heck yeah. And that you did. And it seems like you finished it like at the perfect time, because we're starting to really see a renaissance of the 4G63, of turbocharger technology, of engine control technology. I mean, it's perfect timing.
Yeah, it seems like it. I guess I kind of got to a point with the car where I was just like, I'm too far into this to just give up on it.
Yeah.
I could never sell this and get out what I've put into it, and there's definitely like a sentimental value, and I'm like, I'm definitely not a quitter, so I need to finish this. I need to see this through and finish what I started. So, that was kind of, I guess, my motivation as of recently. But yeah, it is a good time. I mean, the technology and stuff right now is good, and fucking 5 years, I'm probably gonna laugh at that comment because I'm sure it'll be even better then.
Yeah.
But that's just how that shit goes,
Hell, it'll probably be next year. It'll be even better.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
So I got to ask, because I know you probably get it a lot, how much of this car is the factory Talon TSI front-wheel drive?
That's a good question. So basically what I did is I effectively skinned the car. So there's in between like the door openings and where the firewall was, there is nothing original. It's literally the outside skin of the car. I tried to cut out as much of the factory stuff that was in there that I didn't need. Mm-hmm. So there's not much left. It is the full, factory body. I mean, cast block, stock crank, for now. But there's no like factory frame rails. There's no factory firewall or floor or anything like that. So if you Google 25.1 chassis and you see what that looks like, it's a single frame rail 25.1 chassis. So I wanted to try to keep it as light as possible. It's always a never-ending battle, I guess. So yeah, so that's that pretty much.
So Albert, once you got the car finished and you kind of took a step back, did you have any goals in mind to say, like, yeah, I'm going to take down such and such, or what was the plan?
Not necessarily. Like, I mean, of course, like, you don't build a car like that to not want to go like sixes. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I really wanted to see what the 4G was capable of, and I wanted to kind of remove the front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive drivetrain deal out of the equation, because that's everybody's limiting factor. I mean, if you look at all the big dogs out there, like Aaron Gregory or Devin Schultz or whoever, all those guys are making like incredible power. They're making way better power than I'm making, but the limitation for them is the drive line and the OEM chassis platform. Yeah. So like all-wheel drive isn't really helping them, I would say. Not to like throw a stone or whatever, because of a rear-wheel drive car of that caliber and like a unibody all-wheel drive car, I mean, it's apples and oranges, it's just two different platforms. Yeah. So, but like on much less power, I'm going much faster. So,
and able to keep it together, like you're saying.
Well, again, you're running less power. Yeah. So,
less stress on the drivetrain.
Well, the drivetrain isn't really, knock on wood, isn't really the issue. All those parts in the drivetrain are the same kind of parts that they're running in like a, probably like a top sportsman or like a pro stock car. Yeah. Maybe like a pro mod car. So like all of that stuff is, it's way underpowered for what I'm putting at it, I'm not going to hurt like a ring and pinion or, an input shaft or something like that. So
that makes a lot of sense. That really puts it into perspective for someone like me who's never had a car like that.
Right. So like, if you want to get into like times and stuff like that, I think, maybe for like an all-wheel drive platform, like a 1.2, a 1.3 60 foot would be like a really good 60 foot. Right now, the best 60 foot I've seen is a 1.02. And I think it'll go sub 1.0 60 foots.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the goal. The chassis is capable of it. It's just a matter of making some tweaks and adjustments to get it there. So
right. So the Precision 88 that you have on it now, and the cast block and the original crank, that's all the components. That's the same setup you had from the very beginning, right?
More or less, yeah. I mean, I kind of waited on the turbo till close to the end.
Okay.
To get it, and there's a few other similarly built chassis cars, like 4-cylinder chassis cars out there in the world that are running a similar setup, like turbocharger wise and whatnot. So like I could see the success that they were having with it, and I knew some people over at PTE, and they've been pretty awesome to work with. So, and the turbo's really been good. I don't even really feel like we've started to lean on the turbo that hard yet. So I think that there's a ton left in it. So.
Well, that's very encouraging for me. I mean, obviously, I want to keep an eye on you, anyways. But that makes me really excited.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, like, of course, I want to go faster, just like anybody would want to go faster. But I mean, at this point, like, we might have like 20 passes on the car.
Yeah, not a whole lot for sure.
Right. So like that's awesome. Actually, my crew chief Kyle, awesome dude. He drives a twin turbo Hemi Pro Mod that runs like 570s in the quarter. Kid's like 28. He was like Drag Illustrated's 30 under 30. The kid knows what's up. He's super smart, nice dude.
Wow.
He always tells me, he's like, I almost wish you struggled a little bit more, just so you know how hard it is to get to where you're at. And like, we laugh about it because like he's not wrong. I totally get it. But I also did spend 15 years putting in a lot of work to make sure that I had a good foundation, you know? So I think a lot of people might think like, oh, you know, this guy just, you know, he showed up and he, you know, kicked ass like right away. But it's like, no, I mean, I did put my work in for many years.
For sure. Just because the work was behind closed doors doesn't mean it wasn't work.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is like you've got to do that with any platform or any program that you're building. Like you've got to put in that work, you know. And it's easy to say that you're going to do something, you know. It's fewer and far between for people to just put their nose down to the grindstone and stay focused on a project like that. I mean, it's such a long-term project. I think that was like the toughest thing about it in building something like that is just, you know, when you have something that you can like race it, break it, fix it within like the span of, you know, 8 months or a year or something, it's a lot easier. You've got a little bit more instant gratification with that. Whereas something that you know is going to take you several years to build, like it's tough to maintain that motivation throughout that, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. I mean, but that's kind of like, if you want to be successful at racing, like you can't give up at stuff. You know, you have to keep going. You have to keep pushing. I mean, as you know, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
For sure.
But it's a lot of fucking work. It's a lot of work. And, you know, anybody who races knows that. Anybody who doesn't race, they don't know that because they go on Instagram and they see X, Y, or Z guy out there going fast, and they're like, well, that's easy. I could do that if I had money.
Right.
And there's so much more to it than that. So.
Or that, yeah, exactly. They think they can just buy all the parts that they have.
Sure, yeah, you can, but then putting them together, making them work, and then having people to help you with stuff. I mean, like, yes, I built the whole car myself, but it would not be where it is without the help of a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
So
after those 15 years of putting this car together and having been into this platform for such a long time, how did it feel to run those 6-second passes at the shootout right off the trailer?
It felt pretty good. There was obviously like the entire season this summer, I basically spent kind of testing and ironing out some kinks, and I didn't really have plans to go to the shootout. I think when you're racing and you're working with like a new program, you don't really know what to expect. Like anything can happen, right? Things can break or things can come up. So like, I just was kind of playing it by ear, and I figured like we were in kind of a good position to go to the shootout and put some laps on the car. And, we did. And, prior to the shootout, I think our best was like a 692. And then we showed up to the shootout, and the first pass off the trailer was like a 677. So, yeah, the track was good, but I mean, we had done some stuff kind of in between, and it did work out. So, it's been consistent, honestly. There's still some stuff that we're fighting, but you know, it's very promising. You know.
Yeah. And you were definitely the talk of the show. That's anytime I talk to anyone, hey, did you see that 6-second 2G? Yep.
It was pretty cool to get to do that, honestly, because I remember, you know, years ago, I think everybody remembers seeing the video of Brent Rao at the shootout running, I think it was like his first 6-second pass. And it was just such an epic video. And I, you know, watching something like that would send chills down my spine. And so, like, to be able to go and do that at the same event, kind of in the same fashion is just, I don't know. I mean, it does feel really good. So, you know, it's nice to see the fruits of all my labor kind of come together, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And it's been a long time since the shootout has seen a 6-second pass. So,
yeah,
that was incredible to see. And I think anyone who was out there, you know, kind of getting their butt kicked by their car, I really do think that your car refilled their motivation to get back out there and to keep racing.
I hope so. It would be nice to think that. I mean, and don't get me wrong, like we definitely fought some shit when we were there. We worked for it, but it was nice to be able to live up to Mike Faria. Is that how you say his last name?
Ferrara, I think.
Ferrara, the D Sport guy, because he was the announcer. And we went, when we got to the shootout, I like went up to the tower and like introduced myself to him, and I was just kind of asking him about, like, you know, we're going to do like some exhibition passes, like where do you want to stick us in the run order? And he was asking some questions about the car and stuff, and you know, as they were getting ready to start the day, like he's talking the car up on the PA and how he's going to go run a 6-second pass, this and that. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, like no pressure or anything.
Right.
So, but it did work out. So it was pretty cool to be able to do that. So,
yeah, that was killer. I'm very thankful for you bringing it out and doing that. And I think the community is as well.
Dude, it was a blast. Honestly, the last time I was at the shootout was probably like 2007 or 2008, and like it's fun to go just like hang out with people, but you know how it is. It's like it's different when you're there with your own car. So yeah, fuck. I wish I had more time to like catch up with people. It was just crazy. It was like a trip down memory lane, almost seeing all these old faces and stuff of just people that I used to hang out with like in college and stuff, and go street racing with, and so that was cool. Yeah. It was very cool. I had a blast.
That's certainly what makes the shootout so special to me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is in a greater sense, it's kind of like a big family. I mean, we're all into the same stupid shit. So,
so Albert, you talked about fighting some stuff and having to get it back together to get it out there. Why is the biggest question for me. You ran that 6-second pass. You could have just parked it for the weekend, but you had the motivation to get it back together and to go out there and make some more laps.
Well, first of all, I think it costs us $175 to run there for the weekend for basically test and tune. So we're make the most of it for sure. You know, we're out there. We may as well. So yeah, I don't know. It's not like we had anything that was like totally impossible for us to handle there. But we like I said, we were fighting some stuff with the clutch a little bit, which I'm still learning like a lot about. So it made us work for it. You know, we should not have had the transmission or the clutch apart the entire weekend. We could get about 4 or 5. Ideally, you should get about 4 or 5 runs before you need to pull it apart. We were pulling it apart every run. So we're figuring some stuff out with it still. But you know, that's just kind of how it goes at that level. So prior to that, we weren't having any issues. So we'll figure it out and, you know, kind of get back on track with it. So, but you know, like I said, super promising. It's going to go faster.
This episode of the MitsuTimes podcast is brought to you by Speed Farm Garage. With a focus on the 2006 to 2012 Mitsubishi Eclipse platform, you can find not just products for sale, but experience advice on your Eclipse needs. Initially focused on helping people with 4G69 turbo builds, Speed Farm Garage has grown to promote R&D of the Eclipse chassis as a whole, while offering sales to multiple platforms. Based in Ontario, Canada, they personally understand and have experienced the difficulty involved in finding local performance parts sales, and have taken a role in expanding availability. Check them out on Facebook at Speed Farm Garage for product availability, as well as updates on their own project car, such as the 4G MR2 mid-engine Eclipse. Well, that leads me perfectly into my next question, Albert. What is the future for this car?
Well, I would love to run this thing at World Cup in the modified class.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, no, that's for sure the goal. I mean, that is kind of like the Super Bowl of drag racing.
Absolutely.
And I've already had like a bunch of people kind of reach out to me and ask if I'm going to go to World Cup, but we're just not ready this year, and I know where we need to be with the car to show up and at least, go a round or two there and be like mildly competitive. That's a fast class, and it's only going to get faster.
Right.
So, I just, sure, could I drive the 16 hours out there and get my dick kicked in? Absolutely. And I'm sure it would still be a fun time, but I'd much rather show up and be competitive,
right. For people to be like, whoa, who is that?
Well, if you look at the world's fastest 4-cylinders out there, not really any of them are 4Gs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it could be done with a 4G. But it is kind of like one of the more bastard 4-cylinders out there. It feels like, it's not like a K series, which is like the LS of the 4-cylinder world.
Right.
And a ton of aftermarket support, great cylinder head. So, it's like probably going to have to do some other stuff to try to get a competitive edge, basically.
Well, good. That's very exciting.
But I don't see why we wouldn't be able to, in the near-ish future, be in the 630 range.
Hell yeah.
So that would be nice.
Would you say that that's a goal for 2024?
630s? I don't know. I mean, I don't really want to assign like a number or a time frame to stuff like that, just because I guess I feel like if we're at the track and we're learning something and we're making some sort of forward progress with the program, then I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's racing, but in the grander scheme of things, like, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, for sure.
You cannot put a car together of that caliber and just expect it to work right off the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some shit that you're going to have to fix, change, learn from, whatever. So that's just the nature of the beast, and it's not any different for anybody else out there. It's just like, I don't think a lot of teams are super transparent about like the struggles that they go through.
Yeah. I agree 100%. That's one thing that I'm trying to highlight, to see that even though you're out there running the 12.5 index, you're not having any different struggles than someone running the quick class. And I want people to realize that.
Yep. 100%, man. So it's just something you got to be committed to, and I think that everybody needs to kind of find their comfort zone with that stuff, because like at the end of the day, this shit should be fun. It is about having fun. Sure, it's nice to be competitive and to win races and stuff, but like we do this because we want to have fun.
Right.
So like, if having fun for you means thrashing on a car, trying to go sixes with it, cool. But if for you having fun means being at the track, running some 12-second passes, being with your buddies, grilling out, whatever, then that's cool too. It's just, different priorities, I guess.
That makes sense. Yeah. I
so,
mean, some people
you can't not work on it. You can't not put in the work on it.
Exactly. Yep, for sure.
So, it's not like you can just show up and, I guess if you had like a billet Hemi or something like that, you're not doing too much with it in between rounds. But I mean, in all fairness, I didn't really do a ton to the car in between rounds either, other than service the clutch. If I didn't have to service the clutch, we wouldn't have touched a damn thing on the car the whole weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have the motor apart. Nothing. The door broke.
Oh, really?
So we went 5 passes, all in the 6s, and the door broke.
Wow.
So, I'm good with that, I guess.
And I think anyone who's been to World Cup knows how important that is to not have to work on the car every pass in order to keep making those rounds.
World Cup is it's almost like a torture test. I mean, I have not run it before, but I kind of see what people go through with it. And there's a lot of racing that goes on there. And the air is cold, so people are making more power. It's going to be harder on components. The track prep is top tier. So it's a true test, I think.
When you see the 4-cylinder guys, they have 3 or 4 billet blocks wrapped in saran wrap behind their engine as they're or behind their car as they're getting ready in the pits, and I'm thinking, this is not the life for me.
No, I mean, it's, if you're going to World Cup, you need spares of stuff. You definitely need a spare motor there. That being said, I do not have a spare motor right now. I have spare parts. I have nothing put together. A week before the shootout, I bought a stock crankshaft off of Facebook Marketplace for $200, and I put it in the car with a fresh set of bearings. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Wow.
But you just make do with what you got. So.
Wow, I love that. So, Albert, would you assign a long-term goal with this car, or do you want to stay away from that?
Next question.
Okay.
I have stuff in mind, but I don't want to jinx it.
I got you.
I'd rather just work towards that goal and see what happens.
Could I ask you a hypothetical instead?
Sure.
So we see Jet. They just got a personal best earlier this summer of a 6:17.
Uh-huh.
In your opinion, someone who's now done this and kind of been there, done that, do you think that we'll see a 5-second 4G powered car in the future?
I don't see why not. I really don't. I mean, Jet is right there. Now, for them to go that 1/10 of a second quicker, that's going to require a lot of work.
Yeah.
I would imagine. And I know those guys. I don't talk to them too regularly, but they're good dudes.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I don't really know how much time they spend on it. I know they have some other cars that they've been kind of having some fun with. And I could see why they would want to spend some time with some other cars, because I got to imagine that their 4G program is, while they're probably pretty dialed in with their program, I got to imagine it still requires a good degree more work than something like that Mustang that they have.
Right. Yeah. That's what I think, that they get frustrated and then kind of move to the Mustang for a bit and then come back.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't make the push for a 5-second pass, because they're right there. I don't want to make it sound like that's going to be an easy thing to do, but they are the closest, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they're probably up there top 5 fastest 4-cylinder in the world. So it would be cool to see them do that. I know they've had that thing for a long time,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, and they were for sure kind of a source of inspiration, just seeing what they were doing with that. So.
Well, Albert, after the 15 years of work and God only knows how much money, do you think if you could start all over and do this build over again, you would do it the same way?
I'd probably put a billet Hemi in there with a screw blower on it. I don't know. I mean, I always say you can be unique or you can be fast.
Yeah.
It's hard to be both. And when you're building something like a 4-cylinder, it's definitely unique, and it's going to be hard to be fast. If I had a twin turbo LS, or if I had a twin turbo Hemi or something like that, I would be fast, but I wouldn't say that it's going to be unique necessarily. Mm-hmm. And I think that it would probably be easier to go fast, but it was just what I knew, so it was what I knew, and I just kind of stuck with it. And I don't know what the future holds necessarily, but I do like going fast, so I wouldn't want to rule anything else out. So
Okay.
I don't know if that answers what you were looking for, but
Yeah. Now I'm worried that you might switch from the 4G, but
no, there's a lot more potential to tap out of that thing, no
Heck
doubt.
yeah.
So
Good deal.
yeah.
So Albert, you've had a long storied history with Mitsubishi and Mitsubishi powered cars. So I want to go back and kind of get your background with all of these cars.
Okay. Where do you want to go here? So I know I said I got this car in like 2000 when I was a senior in high school, and that was kind of like what began my 4G 6.3 history, I guess, was that era. And for a long time it was street car shit, bolt-ons, build a motor, build a transmission, whatever. And it was a fast little street car for back in the day. But like I said, I went 10s as front wheel drive, and then went 9s as all wheel drive. So back then that was like kind of a bigger ish deal. It wasn't like John Shepherd territory or anything like that, but all things considered, that was like a fast car for back in like 06,
sure.
07. So
You would have been the quickest guy in my city for sure.
no, it was fun. I learned so much from working on these cars, like about myself and just about technical skills. Like I never took like an autos class or anything. I went to school for engineering, and I feel like I learned more from tinkering with this car than I did from school, honestly. Wow. I learned to weld. I learned a ton about like different manufacturing processes, from like machining to CAD to casting. I was running a small business back in the day, like out of my folks' garage, just building like intercooler kits and exhaust manifolds and shit like that. So I think some OGs might recognize my name. But yeah, I mean it's been cool. Like I wouldn't trade it for the world, because getting to do this stuff and learning how to build stuff and make stuff is, I don't know, it's enjoyable. I think I kind of figured out along the way that I liked the build process.
Yeah. I'm kind of
but
the same
then
way.
that kind of flips on you midway, because you get so wrapped up in the build process that you, well, as Tony Namesake would say, paralysis by analysis. Like you just end up over analyzing shit, and then you end up never getting anything done. So at some point you just have to kind of draw the line in the sand and say like, yep, this is good enough. Let's get this out and see what works,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not perfect. That there's things I would change about the car, but it'll do the job.
It's definitely doing the job, and I'd love to see it in action. Where can people go and see this car in action for the rest of this year and into 2024?
That's a good question. I think, we'll probably stick to just testing in the local Midwest area for the time being, until next year. It'd be like Great Lakes Dragway, Byron Dragway, maybe 131 in Michigan.
Okay.
Those are all like relatively local to me. But then next year, I would like to start running some events, like maybe like a streetcar takeover, or like, I haven't even really looked at an event schedule. I just know that I'd kind of like to be in a position to go run World Cup next year. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't want to necessarily commit to anything just yet, but I would like to do that. So
for sure. And hopefully we get a cool pro rear-wheel drive class at the Shootout, so we can see your car and hopefully some cars like it.
It would be cool. I would love to see that happen, because obviously, like, I love this stuff, and then seeing all these drag strips closing down now, and the electric cars becoming more and more prolific. It's a little scary for like petrol heads, I guess.
That's for sure.
I don't know. If you don't build stuff, and if you don't encourage people to participate in the sport, like, the sport's going to go away.
Yeah, it's going to fall out from underneath us.
So, like, yes, it's expensive, but there's so many like intangible lessons that you can learn, like from being at the racetrack and having to think on your feet and fix stuff on the fly, or I mean, just even the people you meet too. Like, you meet so many cool people when you're at the track. So like, to like the younger generations and stuff, like just do it, start it, and don't give up, because you're going to learn something about yourself or about a skill or whatever. I mean, I probably wouldn't even do what I do for a living if it wasn't for this car. So,
hell yeah.
There's always good lessons to be learned, I think.
Yeah,
but yeah, as far as the pro wheel drive class at the Shootout goes, I would love to see that. I don't know who would compete or how many cars you would get, but maybe it's one of those things where, like, unless you do the class, like, you won't know. So
right. Maybe there's some cars out there that we don't know about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that there's like a small handful of cars that you could get to show up to something like that. They might not all be 4G stuff, but
right.
4G or not, I mean, it'd be nice to see import racing thrive. I think import racing has always kind of struggled a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So
Albert, where can people find and follow you on social media so they can see more of your amazing machine?
You can follow us on Instagram at Purple Haze Racing 420, and where we'll make posts and updates and whatnot on there about the car. I'll try to keep people updated on it, but that would be probably the best place.
Okay. All right, Albert, at the end, I always give people a chance to give a thank you or a shout-out to anyone who's helped them out along the way. Is there anybody that you want to give a shout-out to?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There have been so many people that have helped out on this journey here, and I'm almost certain that I'm going to be forgetting some people, but I will do my best to give a shout-out to everybody that's helped out. I'd say first and foremost, Kyle Dvorak, Jackie Cannon. They've been a huge part of the on-track success with the car. Also, Mike Puglisi, Simon Worth, my buddy Rob and his girlfriend Sabrina, Chris Liska, Mike Pryka, Zach Keller. Also been a huge help in various portions of the build and on-track help. And then there have been a slew of people that have kind of helped during the build process too. Kaká Dowd from Kaká Dowd Racing in Brazil. He's been a huge help with a lot of things from like tuning to, build specifics and stuff like that. Eric Luzinski at Titan Motorsports. He's like the clutch guy. If you're doing a clutch car, you want to talk to Eric. Greg and Joe at Hyperactive Performance Solutions, Blake Bonkowski at Bluegrass Race Electronics, Jim at Precision Turbo, obviously Kevin and Aaron at Kigley Racing. I can't say enough good things about them. They're absolutely pillars of our community.
Heck yeah.
Ed at Penske Racing Shocks, Tim at Fuel Injector Clinic, and last but not least, Fuel Tech and Steve DeKanga at SD Enterprises. He was the mastermind behind the whole paint job on the car, and he just knocked it out of the park. So, like I said, I'm sure I'm forgetting some people, but that's what kind of comes to mind off the top of my head here. So.
Well, Albert, thank you again for coming on here and sharing your story. It was amazing to see your car in action, and I can't wait to see some more updates from you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday to chat with me.
Absolutely. It's like I said, it's been an honor, and I can't wait to. You said that the car's still got a lot left in it, so I can't wait to see you turn it up.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, I'll see you at the track.
All right. Take it easy, buddy.
You too.
Thank you for listening to the MitsuTimes podcast. Check out our Instagram and Facebook for daily updates. Get added to our list by going to MitsuTimes.org and clicking Submit a Slip. Thank you to all of our sponsors.